Hi, this is the new smartwatch for kids from Xplora named X6 Pro, which is a bit of a more refined version of the X6 Play that I tested just over 2 years ago. Review of that one up the top and in the video description. So what's new with the X6 Pro? Well, firstly, we finally have a somewhat new design that is more rounded both in the actual watch frame as well as in the screen's form factor. Xplora also states that this is their thinnest watch ever, and with all the measurements added together, the watch as a whole both is and feels smaller than all its Xplora predecessors. It's still a pretty bulky watch though, especially for a kid, which is something to still have in mind. Here it's next to the Withings ScanWatch 2 that I tested recently, which is a pretty normal sized 42mm smartwatch for adults. Make what you want out of that. Also, something me and my 5-year-old helper tester really struggled with was that the included silicone bracelet is way too difficult to do up, mostly because the band itself is a tiny bit too wide to easily be threaded through the metal loop. Luckily, and at least in the version I tested, Xplora also included an elastic watch band that was super easy in comparison when it came to my tester putting on and removing the watch himself. With the more physical things out of the way, the other biggest changes with the X6 Pro aren't actually that monumental to the functionality, well, at all. The screen though has been updated to an AMOLED version from the old TFT thingy, making black. The resolution is though basically the same, however with a drop in screen size from the X6 Play's 1.52 inch to a smaller 1.2 inch. Here everything does feel a bit smaller. It is though still perfectly usable. The round display format however does come with a bit more irritation when it comes to swiping in from a particular side of the screen for, to example, navigate backwards, something that from time to time takes a few tries to get right. The second biggest update is a new system chip that in all honesty does not make anything for the snappiness of the watch, and in the more graphics heavy portions of the menus, such as the funny filters on videos, the watch really struggles to keep up. What the new chip does bring though is however better energy efficiency, making the battery life here better than before with a standby time of about 3 days. Charging should still probably be done every other day to be on the safe side, but at least the battery life here is a little better than it was on the X6 Play, which is nice. As for the charger though, this has for some reason really been downgraded from the X6 Play, at least when it comes to the magnet that can barely hold the watch in place at all. An odd development since they were indeed pretty strong on the X6 Play's charger. For connectivity, the X6 Pro is now an eSIM only watch that is only compatible with Xplora's own services. The subscription fee starts roughly at $10 or £8 a month, and for that you get free calls, free text and free data over a 3G and 4G connection, which is fair for the price, but of course you do get locked to Xplora. Make what you want out of that. Getting started with the watch is pretty straightforward, even though installing the eSIM required a little technical fiddling in my case. The watch then connects to the Xplora app, available for both Android and iPhone, and from there we can do a number of things. The first one is to add safe numbers that can be reached from the watch. If a number that is not added to the safe list on the app is trying to call the watch number, it gets busied and a notification appears in the parent app. A great feature that works intended just as it did before with the older version of the Xplora watches. As for talking, the mic quality is good and having a normal conversation has proved no issues at all, even outside. The watch can also receive both text and sound messages. It can then answer both either via pre-added phrases that can for some reason still not be changed, as well as with emojis or a voice message back. Unfortunately, there is still no keyboard support and no talk-to-text functionality built into the watch. Via the app, we can also track the watch, something that during my tests has worked mostly good. At a few occasions, the watch has jumped over to a wrong location, but this has usually been automatically corrected pretty instantly when clicking on the watch to view exactly where it is right now. Just like before, there are also safe zones that can be added where the watch then sends a notifications to the app when it enters or leaves any of the added zones. This too has worked basically without any hiccups at all, but do keep in mind that the zones are rather large with a smallest diameter of 300 meters. For whatever reason, Xplora has never before jumped on the video call train, until now that is. Kind of. On the front of the X6 Pro is a 5-megapixel camera that can firstly be used for taking photos and videos to send to contacts, but soon also for video calls. The functionality is not yet released, but is set to be available sometime during 2025. Finally, picture-wise, the camera is decent at best, and being pointed at your face, it is pretty difficult to snap pictures of anything other than, well, your face. But for video calls, it should probably work okay. Other than that, though, the functionality is identical with the other Xplora watches and includes a calculator, a start-stop timer function, an alarm that needs to be set through the app, a calendar, and a weather app. The watch also has a built-in step counter where your child earns Xplora coins depending on how many steps gets walked through in a day. These coins can then be traded for new backgrounds, ringtones, etc. through the Xplora app, which is indeed still a fun gimmick to get your kid to move more. And on times here, my helper really got into cracking up the steps, so sure. So to sum up the Xplora X6 Pro, despite a few small annoyances, the outside of the X6 Pro is sure a pretty neat upgrade to the previous watches. It is still a large watch, both for a kid and for an adult, but it is at least getting better. Apart from the somewhat improved battery life and the better screen, the news in terms of functionality, at least right now, are though basically non-existent, making the older, cheaper watches also still very interesting since they do offer the same core functionality. However, when the video calls are released and you want an Xplora watch, the X6 Pro is from there basically the only way to go. Price-wise, the watch is slightly more expensive than its X6 Play sibling, just short of $30 or about £22 up. And sure, if you want the video calls, which is a nice addition, and a little better quality on the screen as well as a slightly better battery life and a somewhat smaller size, the X6 Pro is a fair development. If you're not though interested in the video calls, it is also worth keeping in mind that the other watches apart from that offer the same basic functionality as well. And I'm also guessing they will drop a bit more in price once the X6 Pro is fully released. Alright, those are my thoughts on the new Xplora X6 Pro. Please share any of your thoughts or questions in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching. Bye!